Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. So you guys seem to really enjoy just seeing the mice run around and do their thing. So I thought I'd film this video showing you how I've made their playpen and also answer some questions whilst you guys watch them play. So this is actually a shoe storage unit, and this is a really popular choice for people that have rats and mice. I haven't actually used the attachments that come with this because when you do there is quite a few large gaps, and obviously with mice being small you don't want them to escape, so I've used zip ties instead to attach all of the sides together, and this works really well. So while the mice are playing in here, I thought I'd answer a few questions that I got from you guys on Instagram, anything related to my mice or mouse care in general. So the first question is, how many female mice do you recommend keeping? Now personally, if you're starting out with females, I definitely recommend you don't get any less than 3. The dynamics of a group is a lot better than the dynamics of a pair, and you also have the added security that if anything does happen to one of your mice, you're not going to be left with one mouse by itself. But also feel free to get more than this if you have a large enough enclosure and you feel you can handle it. The hierarchy of a group can become unstable if you get more than 6 mice, so definitely keep that in mind as well. Why does my mouse try and bite me when I reach my hand inside his cage to clean it? So the reason that your male mouse is doing this is because he's territorial, and he's territorial over his cage because that's his space and he's trying to defend it against anyone that could challenge that. So if he doesn't know you're coming and he doesn't see you coming, sometimes he can try and bite you because he's just being territorial, and this is in a male mouse's nature. Not all males are like this, but some males will be very territorial over his cage, so that's why. How are Bramble and Sprig doing with the group? You know, they're actually doing really well. There was a few days after introductions where I didn't know if things were going to settle down or not, but things have settled down. The only time where they are very vocal and squeaking at each other is around food time, so that's the only real thing they get kind of territorial over, and then that does cause them to have a little bit of a fight. So apart from that, they are doing really well. They do all sleep together, which is really nice to see, so I think they're doing really well. Are mice noisy? Yes, they can be quite noisy. In the grand scheme of like pets that make noises, I wouldn't say they're that bad, but certain things they do can be quite noisy sometimes, either running on their wheel or drinking in the middle of the night, or sometimes if you have a group of females, they will just decide that they need to have an argument at 3 AM, and that can be quite loud for a little animal. How old are your girls if you know? So Pebble, Opal and Pearl will all be coming up to about a year old in about a month's time, and then my other 2 girls, Bramble and Sprig, I was assured that they're not any older than 6 months old, but I think they're on the lower end of that scale. I think they're about 3 or 4 months old. Opinions on bin cages with mice. I think bin cages can be a really good option with mice as long as they're big enough. How is Pebble? Pebble is actually doing really well. If you didn't know, I thought Pebble had a tumour under her throat, and before I could take her to the vets to get this checked out or anything, this lump on her throat has actually gone away, which is really good. And I also treated her for mites way before I introduced her to the other girls, and her fur is finally going back from that, so she's looking really healthy now and I'm really happy about it. What is their favourite treat? Definitely for all 5 of them, their favourite treat is mealworms. I can't find a breeder, none of my rescues have mice. Should I buy from a pet shop if needed? Now personally, I think if you can't ethically source an animal, whether this is from a breeder or a rescue, whatever your preference is, if you can't ethically source that animal, you don't really need to get them. So I'd either say wait until a rescue has mice in, or look on selling sites like Craigslist and things like that for anyone that is rehoming their mice. But if you can't find the animal you're looking for, I don't think you need to go to a pet store, because if you're not ethically comfortable with supporting a pet store, then you don't need to get that animal, and I think you can make a pass on owning that animal just to make sure you're still okay with where you're getting them from. What would you say is the most difficult thing about having mice? Definitely the most difficult thing for me is spending most of their lifespan trying to get them to trust you, and then them not having a very long lifespan anyway. Who is the smallest of all of your mice? I'm pretty sure that Sprig is the smallest, which is so funny to me because she's the one that has the biggest attitude and picks on all of the other mice. Can mice in pet stores still be healthy? Yes, they can. The thing with mice in pet stores is they have such a wide variety of different genetics. You don't really know if you're going to get a healthy mouse or not. Some people I know that have got mice in pet stores, they've lived 3 or more years, and other people, they've not had the mice very long. The problem with pet store mice is their genetics, and you just don't know if you're going to get a healthy mouse or not. Now that doesn't mean that all mice from pet stores are going to be unhealthy. The problem for me with pet stores is where the mice are actually coming from. The fact they're being mass produced and mass bred in these rodent mills, that to me is a bigger issue than the fact that they have health issues sometimes. So I definitely would be careful with pet stores because you don't know what you're going to get, and you are lucky sometimes to get a healthy mouse, and other times you can be really unlucky and that mouse will have a whole lifetime of issues. Up to how many mice could live in your current cage setup? So if you didn't know, I have an IKEA detour for my mice, and I do know a few other people that also use this for their mice, and I think they said that their maximum was about 10 mice. Personally, I don't think I would keep this number in here. Looking at my girls now, I think I could only fit a few more mice in there, but I think 10 is about the maximum for this kind of cage if you utilise all of the space properly. If you suddenly had another mouse, what would you name her? I have a list of mouse names on my phone, and the one that I like the best on there at the moment is Clove. Who is the most shy mouse and who is the most friendly mouse? So definitely the most shy is Pebble. Coming in close second to that is Sprig, but Sprig is a lot more curious than Pebble, so Pebble definitely wins the most shy mouse, and the most friendly mouse is Pearl. How do you know they have mites and how do they get them? So mice, when they have mites, will be excessively scratching themselves, and because of this, when you pick them up, you may notice they have a few scabs on their body. Obviously this sometimes can be caused by other mice, but sometimes they will have little scabs from scratching themselves. Also, mice that have mites, they do tend to lose the fur mostly around their shoulder areas, so if you notice your mice have gone quite patchy or bald on the back of their neck, this could also be from mites, so I definitely treat them if you see this. In terms of how they get them, mice do have mites present in small numbers, and this is usually pretty harmless, but if their immune system gets low, sometimes these mites can get out of control. Or they can also catch mites from other mice, so if you're bringing new mice home that have mites, your other mice can then also catch these. And also sometimes mites can be brought in on bedding, so I do recommend, if you think it is the bedding, to freeze the bedding before you use it. Do mice and rats get along together? No. I've seen this a few times on social media, and I really do not recommend that you try this at home or anywhere else. Please do not put your rats anywhere near your mice. Rats will and can kill mice because they see them as a prey item. They are a lot smaller than them. They can't communicate with each other, so please don't ever mix mice and rats together. Even if you just want to get a cute photo, this is not okay and it's really not worth the risk. Have you had any nasty nips from your mice? Yes, my male mouse Fig did bite me on a few occasions. I think the worst one he did was we were just sitting on the bed and he came over and just bit me on the elbow, and that did surprisingly really hurt. But the thing about mice is they are really small, so they have really small teeth, so they can't really do too much damage. It doesn't really bleed excessively, but it is a bit of a shock still when they bite you. When did you get your first mice? How did you get into them? So I got my first male mouse Fig about 2 years ago this month, and I got him from a breeder that was giving up breeding, and she couldn't get any homes for her male mice, so she gave him to me for free because he was living with his brothers at the time and they were all just fighting and it was a bit of a mess, so I got him from a lady that just gave him to me for free. And I got into them because I had a friend at university and she also had rats, so I'd go and visit her rats sometimes, and she did have an elderly male mouse. Now I never actually met the mouse because he would always be asleep, but I knew he was there and I got really interested in mice because of her and because she had a mouse as well as rats, so that's when I started researching and decided that I wanted a male mouse too. Are your girls spayed? Nope, none of my female mice are spayed, and it is such a complicated surgery on such a small animal that I don't think I would ever consider spaying any of my girls unless they really desperately needed it for whatever reason. But I think it would be hard to find a vet that would be comfortable performing that kind of surgery on something so small. Would you ever consider breeding mice? You know what, I actually would. I think there is a need for a mouse breeder in my kind of area and more mouse breeders in the UK in general, but I would actually consider it more than I consider doing it for rats. I'm much more interested in mouse varieties than I am in rat varieties, so it's something I definitely would consider. Definitely not anytime soon. I need a lot more space and money before I even consider doing that, but I do have a few mouse breeder friends in the UK and I know that they would have my back and be able to support me through it, so it's definitely not a no, it's a not right now. What varieties are all of your mice? So Pebble is a black pied, Opal is a splashed, Pearl is a stone texel, Bramble is a chocolate tam-pied, and Sprig is an agouti-pied. Thoughts on picking up mice by the base of their tail? It makes me uncomfortable. Now, there are a lot of people out there that will say that picking them up by the base of their tail is perfectly acceptable, and a lot of breeders and people in the mouse community are fine with picking them up this way. Personally, I don't want to pick my mice up like this unless I desperately had to pick them up for their own safety. I don't think picking them up by the base of their tail is the best way to get them to trust you, so I don't recommend to anyone to actually do this with their own mice, especially if you don't know what you're doing and where on the tail to pick them up, because you can injure them if you don't know what you're doing. But other people are perfectly fine with handling their mice this way. Personally, I don't handle mine this way because I want them to trust me, I want them to come onto my hands in their own terms, and I don't think picking them up by what is essentially just an extension of their spine is necessarily the best way to do this. How big of a tank do you need for 4 females? Personally, for 4 females, I'd say you'd need at least a 40-gallon tank. Would you recommend a male or a group of female mice for a first-time mouse owner? Now, I thought a lot about my answer to this and I'm still not entirely sure what I think. I did initially want to say males because you only have that one mouse you have to focus on and get used to owning, you only have one mouse to feed and focus on taming, which can be a benefit. And also, you don't have the obligation to continue owning mice. If you do get a mouse and then decide that they're not quite the right pet for you and you don't want to continue owning them, you don't have to get more mice like you would with females, so that is another benefit. But on the other side, the smell can be really hard to deal with. If you've never had mice before and you suddenly get a male and it really smells and you can't deal with the smell, that can be really difficult. And also, it's still highly debated whether males should actually live by themselves or not. Some people will argue that you always have to neuter them and house them with females, which, if you're a first time owner, this is a lot to deal with, so I'm more swaying towards saying a group of females. Just make sure you definitely know you want to continue owning mice before you get them, because you will have to get more if one of those females passes away. Compared to rats, what kind of bond do mice form with you? Now, a lot of people will refer to rats and mice as being similar to dogs and cats, whereas cats and mice can be quite aloof and will form a bond with you on their own terms and will come up to you on their own terms, which I definitely say that can be the case. Some very special mice will form a very strong bond with you. I found that my bond with my mice is more curiosity based. They are interested in what I'm doing and will come up to me, but it's nothing on the same level as what my rats have with me. And my mice just use me more as like a vessel to get places and to get food, whereas my rats are genuinely interested in forming a bond with me. So I've definitely found there is a strong difference, and the bond between my rats and mice is very different. I found that my bond with my rats is a lot stronger. Will you ever get male mice again? Probably not. I'm not in any rush to have that same level of smell, especially not in a house this small, and I also just don't want loads of little enclosures. I prefer having all of my mice in one big enclosure. The only time I would ever get more male mice is if I did decide to breed mice. Obviously I would need males as well, so I'd just have to get used to the smell and just get over it, but that would probably be the only time I got a male mouse. The only other time I would ever consider a male mouse is if there was a neutered mouse in a rescue and I wanted to put him in with my females. Would you ever show your mice? Probably not. No offense to my mice, but I don't think any of them are particularly show quality. For their specific varieties, I don't think they're the best examples of them, so there probably wouldn't be any point in me showing any of my current mice. And I don't really want to put them through the stress of having to go to a show. I would like to go to a mouse show, just not show my girls in it. So that is it for the questions. I've managed to get through quite a few. I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing the mice play whilst I answer these, and I hope you've learned a lot more about my mice and about mice in general. Do let me know if you like this type of video and if you want me to do another one in the future. Maybe I'll try and get one with my rats, although I imagine it will be a lot more difficult to film them. But in the meantime, make sure you are subscribed to see any future animal related videos from us, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye!